Well, a survey by Morning Consult shows that almost a third of U.S. adults say that they're actively preparing for an economic downturn of some sort, while half of those surveyed say that they want to prepare, but they can't for one reason or another. So how do you prepare for an economic downturn or a recession? Joining me to break this down is Drue Kampmann with True Financial Partners in Bettendorf. Good morning, Drue. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, David. Good to be with you.
So, Drue, this survey looked at more than 2,200 adults, even broke it down by income level. It showed that nearly 60% of those making $50,000 or less a year say that they wish they could make preparations for a recession, but they can't afford to. And more than 21% of adults say that their financial obligations each month outpace their pay. So how do people who are already strapped for cash prepare for a recession or an economic downturn?
It really starts with the monthly budget and your spending plan. I mean, that's really important. I can't emphasize that enough. And what that does, it's going to help ensure you're living within your means and not overspending. And if you make this a habit when the economy is strong, it's really going to help set you up for success during bad economic times. As my grandfather always said, make hay while the sun shines. So you really want to make good financial habits like budgeting and spending plans. And then you break it down even further. You know, look at where you're spending your money, how much is going out, but also where's it going. Limit your spending on what I would say discretionary spending. Maybe focus on essentials like your rent, your mortgage, your car payment. Those are all essentials, your utility bill. Then you look at what is your discretionary, non-essential. Maybe it's eating out, maybe it's going on a vacation. What are those large spending habits? So you really want to limit your spending on discretionary spending. Then also limit your borrowing. I mean, look at how interest rates have continue to go up. You have a greater cost to borrow. So look at trying to pay down those credit cards and pay off those higher interest debts, because your credit card debt is typically, it's the most expensive. You're looking at 18 to 19% APR. And that gets pretty costly and puts a real dent in that monthly budget and spending plan when those costs go up so much.
Yeah, and we're actually seeing a report this morning that we've been reporting on that credit card rates are averaging around 20% today. Definitely much higher, so absolutely paying that off. But one of the things you touched on was interest rates. And we know the Federal Reserve has raised those interest rates more than 4% in the last 12 months. And that's a historic move in and of itself. And we've heard that this is all to ease inflation, but it's stressing people's wallets in the process. So walk us through that process. Explain why raising interest rates may be the way through this, or is there another way?
Well, maybe another segment for another way, but what the idea is behind it. And yes, inflation's high, so that's already hurting consumers. But also when you start talking about rising interest rates, it becomes more expensive to borrow. So in short, really the Federal Reserve, the hope is that rate hikes are going to temper demand for consumer goods and services by making it more expensive to borrow money. So really what they're trying to do is deteriorate demand. Well, the philosophy behind that is that if goods and services become too pricey, less people are going to buy them, which sellers will turn around and have to lower their prices to retain their customers. For example, let's say an automaker or an auto dealership may be forced to slash prices on an automobile because a potential buyer will not want to finance higher interest rates or for an auto loan to pay the higher interest rates. So it's deteriorate demand, deteriorate the supply, therefore it becomes more affordable.
And we hear the term savings and having an emergency savings thrown around. So how much money should be in that emergency savings right now?
Well, it kind of goes back to the budget and the spending plan. You really want to focus on the three areas I mentioned earlier, but the last one would be on setting money aside each month. Automatically just set aside as much as you can when you free up some of that budget by not having that discretionary spending, but put more money aside each month for difficult times or difficult economic times. And I would say it used to be 3 to 6 month savings, but I would say you want at least 6 months in reserves to pay all your expenses on a monthly basis. And I would make that a goal. And if you can achieve that goal and even focus higher, you're going to put yourself in a much better position to be successful during difficult times.
Now, I know it's hard to look into the future and predict it spot on, but in your opinion, when do you think we're going to know how bad of an economic downturn that we're going to expect, and how long do you think it's going to last?
Yeah, my crystal ball is a little cloudy today, but if I had to guess, there's some things that, variables as far as a recession. I mean, you look at the housing market, you look at GDP. We saw negative GDP 2 quarters in a row, which is last year in 2022. But we see the employment market or the unemployment market actually pretty strong. So there's a lot of going back and forth with, is it going to be a hard landing? Are we going to be in a deep recession? I think within the next 6 months, we'll probably know, and it's all going to be based on the employment market, how bad or if and how soft of a recession we'll have. And I would say that will probably be in the next 6 months.
All right, Drue Kampmann with True Financial Partners in Bettendorf. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thanks, David. Have a great day.
You too.